Ready to roll. Yeah.
This is the regular meeting of the Academy Community Center Building Committee. I'm Joe Ballantyne, Chair, and I'm calling the meeting to order. The first order of business is the approval of the prior minutes from July 23rd. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion?
Any second?
Second.
Any comments?
One comment on item 4, liaison reports. We had a bit of a conversation about the need to put together information on a notification timeline for the public education efforts. I was wondering if we could add that in.
Al, did you catch that?
Yeah, I caught that. The question on the floor is whether to add it to the minutes. Is that right?
Right.
I have no problem with your adding it to the minutes. I think when we go over the calendar a little later in the meeting, we'll go over that subject.
Okay. And do you want
That's fine.
Okay, that's fine. And I did have a change in item 3. Valentine has 2 A's and 1 E. Not 2 E's and 1 A. Any other comments? In favor? Aye.
Aye. Abstain.
Thank you. Chair's comments. There are a number of meetings that are happening now with the town and with the contractors outside of this meeting. I'm not going to go over them. We'll leave that to Colliers and QA&M to summarize them if they like, or move over them if they like. The only one I want to point out is the Fuss and O'Neill work, the selective demo. I don't, if there's an update on that, please give it. If there's not an update, please say so now.
There is an update, I can give that
Okay,
now.
no, we'll do it as part of Colliers.
Okay.
Okay. And that's all, I did want to point out that the meeting of with the town on, what that was the 6th, John wrote an excellent list of action items, and if you haven't read it, you should. If you don't have to read it now, don't need to read it now, but it's an excellent review, and there was a lot of stuff going. There was a lot of action items coming out of that follow-up meetings. So it's best to go to the minutes and read them, and then if you have any questions, direct them to John. And that's all I have for chair comments.
I just want to make sure, Jean, that we put whatever's been presented on those meetings is also part of online to be able to grab them, to be able to see them, right? Okay.
Yes,
We want
those
to make sure any
those were
subcommittee
emailed to her
minutes
already.
are out there as well, so people can see it. Sorry.
Item 4 is liaison reports. Al, how you doing? You're our only liaison here. Oh, actually, we have Austin's here today too.
I can make this very brief. I don't think I have a report today. I have nothing to add, Joe.
Okay, I think this is one of those meetings. I think we're we have a lot going on outside, and this is the we do not have. I don't know if there's anything to vote on as we go through this, but we'll find out. Except things like the minutes. The invoice packet.
Austin, do you have anything?
I have nothing to report.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Keep it moving. There is no invoice packet.
Okay.
No line items.
In the line item. Okay. Okay. Collier's update. I'll switch to you, John.
Probably just defer to the review of the milestone schedule. I mean, there's a lot to discuss on that. We've already touched on. We had a meeting last week regarding some of the planning review issues.
Hey, John, could you speak up for the microphone too, because you're facing away from the microphone.
Okay. As I was saying, we did have a meeting last week with the planning review group here in town. Joe referenced those minutes that have been distributed. There was also a meeting about 2 weeks ago on the door hardware. Those meeting minutes were also submitted to the building committee for their review. And again, I'll review more of the schedule in detail when we get to the new business items.
I saw in the door review that we're gonna reuse some of the fire doors, is that correct? That was a recommendation, I believe?
They are going to try to, yes, reuse some of those doors that are there.
I see, Felicia, you're nodding your head, that's a good thing?
Yeah, I mean, they're in good shape, they're solid, so why purchase something that you can just
Okay,
rehab and
they
reuse?
don't deteriorate over 20 years, that's good.
I did have one comment on the door hardware. I think we had sort of suggested potentially a sole source for that. Are we compiling a list of potential building materials that we would want a sole source? And back checking with facilities on how they feel about that?
Actually, I did email Ben on that, and he was sort of leaning towards just the wording and the specifications. And based on that, they could look at, limiting it to a certain supplier, or, go with the 3 bids and then assess that further in detail later.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I think anything sole source wise, I would just want facilities to take a look over. I have no personal preference on that, but if it's something that they're used to using in their department, it makes it very, very much more streamlined.
I recommend that, particularly as it regards the door hardware.
Yeah, I think the things that came to mind were door hardware, HVAC, and then potentially FF&E. Those tend to be the ones that I see a lot for Salesforce.
That, so far, that's it, Todd?
Yes.
You're gonna go down to the new business, okay? Q&M, see Tom?
Good, we've got a lot going on behind the scenes. We have an informal meeting with ACAA, tomorrow night. We have we're efforting to get on the agenda for the Historic District Commission meeting on the 26th. Again, an informal meeting. We are targeting formal submissions to both groups' meetings a month out. So we're working with Aaron Mannix, to get on those both of those agendas. We are still struggling to establish the ideal date for the planning and zoning submission. There are a bunch of meetings on this schedule, but more than likely, I don't think we're going to meet the submission deadline for the 19th, September 19th. Hearing. I think more realistically, it'll be the October 3rd meeting that we try and get on their agenda, because they have a week earlier submission deadline. That gives us about 6 weeks from today to finish the construction drawings for the site. We have a meeting planned with staff on August 26th. So I think that sets up well. It'll give us some time to sort of regroup. We'll see what ACAA says thereafter. We have a meeting this week. It might be tomorrow or Wednesday. I've checked with Brian Wednesday regarding the exploratory demolition, getting into the building. And that work is going to be underway. We also have a meeting regarding the stage study. And so there's a lot starting to ramp up. But all of that is happening sort of in the background. And we'll report on results from any of that as they happen. the ACAA meeting tomorrow is a Zoom meeting, and it's, again, it's an informal presentation, so it's generally a discussion, but it's, any members from the public can attend, so I'm pretty certain anyone from the building committee can also attend. Just be a little careful that you don't have so many people there that it becomes a quorum.
Well, if we go to a meeting as people, it's not a quorum. So if we're just part of the public, we can go. If they invite us as attendees, then there's another thing, so.
Okay.
We can just, we can just be part of the public and say what we feel.
Okay.
Echo. My understanding.
Great. I also believe that we have committed, I guess I'm committing, I don't have much of a choice, but to a mid-October construction document delivery deadline. Originally, we were talking October 30th or November 1st, but we're backing it up 2 weeks in order to target ultimately a February referendum date. We don't have a date for that referendum yet, so I don't know if it's first week of February or end of February. A few weeks might make a difference overall, but
So will we be seeing this before, like P and Z sees it, and will the building committee be seeing the documents and the renderings prior to planning and zoning?
we can, that's another conversation. Nothing has really changed with the documents or the renderings at this point, but we can present a status update, or we can provide a status update somewhere in between now and October 18th. So the idea would be to go out to bid around October 18th, because we need drawings. We need a number in December.
Right.
Early December. So that gives about 6 weeks to get a bid and get it vetted, which is viable unless things are way out of whack. I mean, that all works, it's viable. That means that we are targeting an estimate, start of the estimate to happen around the second week of September. Again, I'm not looking at John's schedule, I know he has all of this in there.
It's in there.
But in that ballpark, and then we would actually receive the estimate just about the time we're going out to bid. So I think, while we'll have that information, we won't have a lot of time to make adjustments before we get on the street, but we'll kind of know where we are, and we'll have some stuff that we can talk about. If something has to be changed dramatically, we can issue an addenda to bid documents to pull or cull something to try and respond to something that seems off in the estimating process. So I think that all works. I think the schedule we're targeting and the schedule John's put together makes good sense, and we'll see to delivery of the project, the referendum, with a real number, a bid number in February. So if this magic plan, all comes to fruition, I think it's a doable plan, and I think it'll get us to where we want to go. So we're hustling.
Yeah, I just think that it would be nice prior to going up to bid for us to review them in detail. I think
That is in the schedule now.
Yeah,
It's
there's
page-
a page
yeah.
turn with.
Page turn of the
Covers
7th of October.
So 7th of October?
Yes,
Yeah.
Oh.
No. when
Got
the-
it, okay,
the
never
CN
mind,
station.
because I wasn't sure who was gonna be there. Okay, never mind. Sorry.
I personally, I recommend that be a subcommittee type event. I recommend everyone get issued a set of documents for review, but we can do this however the committee wants to, but a page turn with the full committee. Page turn is a pretty big event. It takes a lot of time. like multiple hours. So, then you may want to look at it independently as a committee and then feedback your comments thereafter. Just a thought.
So it would be
yes.
this design subcommittee would do that? The page turn?
I think there's two different ways to approach it, because there's the design committee portion of it, but there's also the mechanical or functional portion of it that I think the environmental committee would want to look at separately. So you could break it up into those two different subset.
Can you break that page turn down into different topic areas at different times, so some of us could show up?
We could,
That's how we usually do page turns.
okay. I haven't
Or we
done
could just have a long
otherwise.
session, just kind of grind it out.
Plumbing, electrical,
Do we have,
fixtures, layout.
do we have time frame of when the CX agent is going to get the documents for their review?
I do not know.
I mean, they have the DD
They
package.
have the DD package,
There's
but
a meeting tomorrow with them. Yes, tomorrow, where they're gonna be, following up with Brian and Colburn to review things in further detail. So that's not on this schedule. I didn't put every single meeting in there.
right, yeah, when you release it for CD documents issued for pricing, is that going to be a full enough set that the CX agent could also start looking at?
That is the intent.
Okay, so hopefully they would have that back before the reconciliation. October 3rd is gonna be a long day for you. Well, estimate review and then a P and Z commission meeting.
And getting back to the page.
Well, just FYI, the P and Z meeting on the 3rd will be quite short because P and Z receives their applications at one meeting and then they don't schedule the public hearing until a month later. So when we go to the meeting on the 3rd, they're basically gonna say, oh, great, thank you, we're receiving this application. We will schedule a public hearing for November 3rd.
Somebody who has sat through a lot of those meetings just to allocate your time for a late night.
And I would anticipate a lot of public comments, so probably as many of the committee members as possible should try to attend those too.
Do we have a limit on, are we still limited to less than a quorum in that, or?
Yeah, because once again, we are public, so we're not part of planning and zoning, we're just sitting there, and if somebody asks a question of us, we can answer, we can also stand up as a person rather than just a committee member and say, this is why, as a citizen of Madison. It's okay. We're not discussing, they're doing their discussion, we're just there to answer questions.
But
I'm
that would-
sure mostly the experts will answer the questions, but there may be a question thrown at.
But that would be different from the page turn where we would actually be part of the
Yeah.
discussion. So we would be limited to less than a quorum. at
On the page
turn.
turner? Do you have-
That's difficult because I'd rather not have you break it up. I mean, a page turn is
Right.
it's a page turn. You
Once
turn
we
the
get-
page and there's mechanicals and sewage and septic on the same page.
When we have more time to figure out how. we wanna
Okay.
do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if we, I think the lead people to question would be, if we did it for the full committee, we could have the people that are on the subcommittees lead the questions and things like that, and then if there was another question that came out of it from one of us, then that's fine, but I think,
Okay. But we have
yeah,
we
can
have
talk about that.
time to take care of it. I would like to, there's, just as a mention, something that's not on the page is and it's with the second grant that we have, we're subject to Buy America. If there's Buy America and there's Buy American. I forgot which one we're subject to, but we're subject to one of those. And that would have to be the responsibility of us if we're going to specify it, and the contractors to limit their purchases in some ways that are specified in those details. And so if Colliers is going to write the RFQ, RFP, then that you would have to be aware of what those limitations are and put them, or at least put the fact that they're necessary into the RFP.
Right. That's it from our report.
Ask a question.
Yeah.
With everything and an honest answer from the design teams, are we sort of making this a little short for what it needs to be in order to meet the referendum deadline? Or are you confident that bidding and design have enough time to be vetted and properly?
I need to interject something first there, and then you can answer that. I'm sorry. The referendum is not approved or scheduled yet. It's not approved, much less scheduled. So while we could look forward to appropriate dates, but to actually talk as if it's going to happen, it's not, we'd be getting ahead of ourselves.
So I guess I'll rephrase my question.
Okay.
If that were not part of the concern, would this still be the schedule we were following?
Almost. We had committed to a November 1 delivery date of construction documents, so we've been consolidated 12 days. I think we can handle that without real issue. I'm gonna wait and see what ACAA and what HDC say. If there's no real deal breakers there, then I don't see any reason why we can't race to getting out the bid when we're trying to. And again, the goal is a target of February. I don't have a date. If it slips, great. That gives us more time, but we'll plan for where we are. And I think we're all right.
And between the two of you, you both feel confident that less than a month for GC bids is still appropriate? It seems like a tight turnaround to me.
I think we're talking about 5 weeks, right?
It goes out October 21st and it comes back November 15th.
Yes.
All right. There was a goal to,
And that got pushed back because of the deadlines of the potential referendum dates in February.
well, how about this? I'm comfortable with our date of October 18th. And we're out to bid October 21. Ideally, it would be, we would receive bids before Thanksgiving. So call it November 21. I think a full month for bidding is adequate. So that really just pushes this off a week, right? 10 days. So that means that the vetting period might be lean. But the deadline for the referendum package is December 2nd. I'm guessing based on February 2nd referendum date. So again, once we know what that date is, there may be some flexibility to build in more review time. I think that's fair, that's worth the conversation there, but there, again, I think that's a conversation beyond the pay grade of me. I don't know what the target is for a referendum and what the thoughts are about a referendum. So we'd have to ask Al and ultimately Peggy about that goal.
There's two,
Yeah.
there's two events that are not scheduled, and that's leading up to a referendum information sessions. So that there is some degree of certainty that we need for the information sessions, and then maybe a higher degree of certainty for the for if a referendum is planned. Yeah. And it also sounds like there's no room for error.
There's not a lot of room for error. This is, I think, a comfortable schedule, but it's a compact, it's a succinct schedule. I really don't think I can squeeze the time any sooner. So I'm committed to this, the October 18th date, and
Okay, thank you, Tom. The, we have an opening for public comment in the referendum, or excuse me, in the schedule, in our agenda. Is there anyone online with their hand up, Chief?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. Would you, this is another chance for you, Austin, are you okay?
I'm good.
Got it. New business. We've already been looking at the updated Collier's milestone schedule. And that's under new business. And I know there have been multiple changes and multiple additions. And John, if you want to run us through them, and knowing that, you know, that very few of them may actually hit those dates, or some may be planned for those dates, but would you like to give us a sort of a synopsis of what's on there?
Okay, thank you, Joe. Starting with the items below the red line there that sort of separates what has been completed and what is pending. Last Friday, the RFP was issued by Fuss and O'Neill to the demolition contractors. That was finalized, that was issued, and they are going to be on site tomorrow, the 13th. Between 2:30 and 4 o'clock with hopefully a number of bidders. Kathleen from Fuss and O'Neill is a little bit nervous just because of the time frame. The summer is their very busy schedule, trying to get everything done before schools open up, and she was a little bit leery that she may not have any interest. However, making some phone calls on Friday, she did inform me that she anticipates at least a couple of the companies being there tomorrow. So hopefully that holds, and she does have, you know, some interest in the bidding for that.
And
I'm sorry?
Need to get in the building tomorrow?
I do, and I believe facilities has coordinated that. Trying to think who we reached out to. I think facilities is going to be there.
That changes, let me know.
Okay, thank you.
And this is for that testing to determine what can be used and what can't be used, like on the floor and things like that.
Yes, this is, they are going to
It's not
QAM
full
is,
demolition is my point.
it's not full demolition. No. Yeah, this is
Selective.
just selective demolition.
For a little-
It's a number of,
I want to kind of reinforce that on camera, so people don't think we're,
yeah,
for our listeners.
QAM has designated a couple of ceiling areas to be opened up, a couple of floor areas to be demoed to get to substrates, one or two things on walls. One of the blackboards they've asked to have pulled off just to, you know, see the adhesive and condition behind that. Some of the plaster conditions, various things on various floor levels, but it is, a limited scope.
Great.
So again, that review is tomorrow with those bidders. As Tom had touched on already, the advisory committee on community appearance meeting is also tomorrow evening. So that is just an informal presentation. On Wednesday, the next design will be on the site doing the theater review of the space. And if I can jump ahead, they have asked for a meeting on the 29th of August with a subcommittee, or I'm not sure who, Joe, you would like to assign for that if available, but they're looking and hoping to, have an informal review of their findings with, some representatives from the building committee on the 29th at 2 o'clock. They've asked for that time frame specifically.
If we want to get ahead of that, John, how about we let you know who's available? We'll let you know who's available on the 29th. So everyone from the committee can just say I'm available or not, or just the ones who want to be available. And then if there's more people are, we need to cut someone out, I'll cut out of that.
Okay.
I'm available.
Okay.
But send it.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Excuse me, the next, moving back a little bit, there is a meeting on Wednesday to review the interior finishes. That'll be at the Collier's office, and I know Felicia's available for that. And that invite has gone out, and we'll be reviewing those finishes with QAM.
The two available, the other two, AJ's not available.
Correct.
And then I'm not available to take his place, so if, I imagine if anybody else wanted to go, would that be an opening? Can we sort of,
Sure.
are we stuck with the subcommittees, or can we, if someone's available, can they just slide in?
I'm not available. What's the time?
1:30 to 3.
Well, let John know.
Okay, so. I'll look and see. Yeah, I mean, I think we can slide people in and out of these if we want to
Okay.
have another person. That's fine.
So that's open to the committee. If you're available and would like to attend, let John know, and he'll add you to the invitation.
Also, when we do a page turn of the project, we can present the finishes to the committee as a whole. There would be another, an opportunity to see what's planned, and if there's really a problem, or one of the committee members needs to take a stance against something, that would be an opportunity.
Thanks, Tom.
Moving on, the award of the selected demolition scope is anticipated for August 22nd. Again, that's partly based on the number of people that do show up tomorrow, but Kathleen will be coordinating that. Once that is determined, there is a 10-day notice that is required by the state, so that's what line item number 19 is reflecting there. On August 26th, we have a meeting scheduled with several of the town departments here at the town hall from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock. That will include planning and zoning, the building official, fire marshal, health department, sanitarian, Chief Drum, and Beach and Rec. So those, as of now at least, are the parties that will be attending that meeting. On August 26th, Tom had referenced previously the meeting with the Historic District Commission. Again, that's an informal presentation to them. Another item, we already touched on the August 29th meeting with the theater group. The selective demolition work, assuming that the 10-day notification ends on the 5th, would begin on the 6th of September and last roughly a week. The next item, the distribution of the CD documents for the estimating, that would again be issued on September 6th, and would be a couple of weeks. Those estimates are due back September 30th. So about 3-4 weeks for that effort. Let's see, a couple others to highlight. On the building committee meeting on September 9th, the intent is to have the Next Design present their findings regarding the theater assessment. And as Tom had touched on, item number 34, the P&Z Commission meeting, their informal presentation will be moved to the Thursday, October 3rd meeting, so I'll adjust that on the schedule. Right, Tom?
That's an informal meeting? The 19th, informal presentation. Let me follow up on that. We may be able to meet the informal presentation deadline, because that's a loose submission.
Preliminary, right. Okay, let me know and I can tweak that accordingly. Again, the CD estimates from the estimators are due the end of September. And Turning the page, the other item of significance that we've already touched on is the page turn. As of now, that is scheduled for Monday the 7th. And again, the CD package looking to be completed by Friday, October 18th. It will go out to the bidders officially on Monday the 21st. And as of now, we're showing that the bids are due back on the 15th of November. That may, be bumped out a little bit, a couple days. But again, the intent is to try to, have that all resolved prior to the November 26th building committee meeting in, before the end of November, beginning of December. So as Tom touched on, it's tight. It's going to be a busy couple months, but as of now, feeling is that, these dates can be met. And hopefully with agreement and participation from the town bodies and commissions, we'll be able to adhere to the schedule the way we're forecasting at this point in time.
So quick question, under the bidding and negotiation phase, item number 12, the GC bid and scope reviews from November 18th to the 22nd, is that done? Is that, you got the
That's between Colliers and
QAM?
QAM to review, assess the bids, make sure they're capturing everything.
Right, apples to apples to apples to apples, okay.
I mean,
Takes
members
a
of the
while.
building committee want to partake in that, that's certainly an option too.
Are we intending to interview?
That hadn't been discussed.
Or are we just getting bids and?
We have not talked about that. We interviewed for the project manager and for the architect, but we did not talk about interviewing the bidders.
Is that typical?
That's not,
It is.
I'll ask the two people who are currently, or the three people who are currently involved. Is that normal or is it abnormal to not interview?
I think it's pretty typical
Typical of what?
to have the bidders come in and basically make a presentation. Talk about their philosophy,
Yeah.
talk about their other projects.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the building industry, so that's,
okay.
I rely on Ian's expertise there, because,
What do you think, Felicia?
On
I
the
wanna hear
public,
what Tom says.
on the public side, we generally don't do that. We've got the contractors, we've got the low bid, second, third. When we look at the bids that come in, first of all, we see where the numbers are. And the numbers sometimes can be all over the place, they can be together. If the numbers are close together, it may make sense to talk to all three, but if the lowest qualified bidder, if the lowest bidder is qualified, then even if it's $5, generally you're not going to the next bidder, so an interview process isn't necessarily viable, but an interview process could be a part of the GC part of the GC vetting process. If we felt like, okay, let's say the number comes in really low and we start vetting it, or we've never heard of these contractors, or maybe we would want to meet them. There's nothing wrong with the concept of having a meeting with the committee, but if they're the apparent low bidder and they're qualified, that could be something you do, after like December 2nd.
And
But just-
as a footnote, my experience is in the private world, not public.
In the private world, do whatever we want.
Well, there's
To a
also,
certain
I mean,
extent.
well, I mean, you would have a pre-qualified list, right?
Well, that's what I was gonna
It's
say,
an
how do we
open
determine
public
quality?
bid.
So
Right.
anybody can bid.
Yeah,
So
it's
you
not
have
gonna be-
but you have a running list of general contractors, right?
Sure, and
Yeah.
we will invite contractors that we work with, give them direct notification, but it'll be publicly noticed. There will be a list of qualifications you have to meet, like, a certain amount of bonding capacity, et cetera. So, prior experience with projects of this nature.
Current workload, maybe.
Yeah, so in theory, it's open to the general public, but only contractors that meet a minimum, qualifications level can submit on a project of this nature. Most of the contractors that submit on this will, technically be qualified. Usually what we see is, if there's a huge range in the numbers or someone comes in really low, then you really want to evaluate, is the low bid, is there enough money in the low bidder's number to actually execute the work in accordance with the plan specification?
Or if a portion of the bid is way off, right? Say our mechanical number is way low, right? We may want to ask those questions, like,
And that's what the vetting process is for. But in the public sort of domain, we haven't in the past done a lot of interviews because, to be honest, how I may feel about one contractor versus the other may not be relevant. If they all meet the qualifications, they've all submitted a number, and the numbers are vetted.
I was more speaking of just a low bidder, right? If we have questions with his bid.
Sure.
Sorry.
So would there be time during that November 26th meeting if potentially there are 2 or 3 that we would want to talk to? If there might be divergence in some areas that are significant and we'd say, you could specifically ask those questions.
We could, but here's the other interesting thing, is that, again, I don't entirely know what the town's intentions are. But let's say you receive 3 bids and one is 12,050,050, one is 12,100,000, and one is 12,150,000. You don't necessarily have to go to contract with any of those contractors before, the referendum information is provided. All you need to do, the whole goal of getting this exercise done before the referendum notice was to establish the number, right? So the building committee can say, we have 3 bidders, all below 12,150. We're recommending going to referendum for 12,150, and we're gonna vet all 3 contractors over the next 2 months.
Okay, so there would be a potential to do it through the month of December.
I think that would give a little more
Unless it's
time
crazy skewed.
to vet who your contract is. And then, once you get in fairness too, once we get the bid number, let's say it's 12 million. For lack of any other number.
Right.
Then, Colliers is gonna take that 12 million and they're gonna pair it with all of the soft cost projections that they think should be modified and adjusted and say, we think the project number should be this. That means you need to meet the net gap of this. This is the number you take the referendum. You have 3 low bids or 2 low bids that are under this number. Move forward. All of the bidders, as part of the spec process, we're gonna ask them to hold their numbers more than likely until after the referendum, right? So, even though we're receiving bids November at Thanksgiving, the contractors aren't gonna start work until probably March 1st at best. So those numbers are gonna, all the contractors, all the bidders, want to hold their numbers.
Is the commission agent,
That's my thought.
is the commission agent involved in these discussions? Once we get the bids in?
It could be, they usually aren't, as far as
Okay.
selecting a contractor, you ask?
Just not familiar with the process, so,
I mean,
No,
they
I mean,
can be, but
we're paying someone to do this, so I didn't know if they were involved early enough to actually say something about the bidders, but if it's not normal, then just let it go again.
But once you get the bids and you have, let's say, 3 low bidders of, in this range, you can establish a number and buy yourself some time so that if you want to do further bid vetting or interviews, that might give you the potential to talk to contractors, let's say they submit and they meet the base qualifications, but let's say the second bidder is more qualified from this historic restoration process, or the third bidder has significant strengths and can do the project in a shorter time frame. At least that will give you a little bit of time to, vet all of the sort of characteristics of the bidders and make a final decision. Because the committee could deem that one contractor is more qualified than another if their qualifications are so, are more in tune to the project.
If I could, so I have the RFP for the CX agent and just standard language that we have in here. The review process, selection process, the owner is utilizing a combination of written qualifications, proposal evaluation, and fee to select a cost estimate, a GC for this project. Let's just put that in there. Although the building committee plans to select the general contractor through a quality-based selection process, not solely based on proposed fee, the selected firm's proposed fee will be examined to ensure its consistency. The owner will evaluate the proposals received to determine which firm should be selected in the best interests of the town of Madison. That's the key part. It is not strictly based on the lowest qualified bidder. If we find that after evaluating and all of these qualifications, it is in the best interest of the town and the project to hire somebody that is not necessarily the lowest qualified bidder, whether it's through schedules, whether it's through the robustness of projects that are similar. There is language written in here that says we have that. That's why I kind of, the interview process to delve further into their approach and their intent. If we have the time, that also is just more time that has to be factored into a very close schedule.
So I think we can create the time, but you have to make sure that the number you carry going to referendum accommodated,
The high and the low.
The high, yeah.
Yeah, if you've got somebody coming, to me, it's like, okay, they're all within that few $100,000, to me, that's, okay, we're on the right track, it's a matter of where the qualification. If somebody comes off a large significant, either higher or lower, then to me, I'm saying, then that begs the question, why? Why is this one so high, why is this one so low? So that's where I wanna get into the details on that.
And the bids will also have, breakout of the various trades, so you can easily compare and contrast, some of those numbers and see where, if there is that much of a gap, where it may fall. I mean, it could all be associated with the MEP, it could be the landscaping, it could be finishes.
And you
never
guys are
know,
sitting
but-
there going, okay, these questions you might be asking during that time of through the 18th to the 22nd, going back and saying, why are, you got some other ones in and you seem to be really low. Why do you have an in with somebody?
That's part of that process.
Right,
I think what we've decided or what we've discussed is that it's a possibility, but this is like a December decision. This isn't something we have to beat to death.
Yeah, but it's more of,
It should be decided before it goes out because you should
you
notify
should
the
have-
general contractors what your intent
Yeah,
is
the
in the
intent.
selection
Right.
process.
Yeah.
And also if we wanted to beef up the criteria and what is necessary in the proposal documents, relevant experience and all of that needs to be in there before it goes out to bid. So that
We say
they
we
know.
reserve the right
So-
to.
Are you saying we would sort of specifically communicate, this is the rubric we're using to make our decision?
Absolutely, yeah. So that they can tailor their
and then
their
also it should
submission
be
bids for it.
available for potential interviews in this timeframe. I think we wanna set a timeframe then.
You put that right in the bid documents, right?
Yes, that would be in the,
I know, I'm not so up on building, but like you would have noticed the contractors and regular contracts and that'd be one of your titles, like.
Just like we did for the architects.
Yeah.
Be prepared.
yeah.
Be prepared.
Same
Right.
approach.
But put it in, I would put it in as we've reserved the right, this is the exact rubric we're following.
So while we do have time before we have to interview them, we don't necessarily have that much time before the full bid documents are being released.
And they provide a subcontractor list too at their bid, right? So,
So do we want to review that in detail at the next meeting then? Try to really nail down what the criteria and what's gonna go as the cover letter, so to speak, or the request for a proposal?
well, you must have
Time
a,
for you to pull.
you must have
Is
some
that
sort of
too-
template, right?
Yeah, that's a test.
We just,
For the ninth, yeah, I mean, one of the, we could kind of have a review and say, okay, why don't we add this in and that kind of thing. Does that make sense? Either August 26th or the September 9th. I'm just saying that gives you time to, parallel to then we'll nail it down. and then
Yeah,
we'll-
yeah, the package doesn't go out till October, so yes, I mean, the next 2 meetings certainly,
Okay,
that's something that
Okay.
can be discussed.
That falls to Colliers.
yes.
The
Well,
board,
yeah, we'll
the
be
board,
putting
to put
together the
the word,
RFP.
pardon?
We'll be putting together the RFP certainly and
Right.
incorporating what.
Incorporating that. So that's
Yeah.
two things,
Got
that's the Buy America, and that's what we're having in our ability to ask for additional information or to interview a contractor.
sorry, Joe, just to back up a little bit on this Buy America thing, because I'm actually pretty proficient in this.
Oh,
So,
good.
well, dealing with it on a daily basis. So you said the second grant has a Buy America component,
Yes.
and what is there any other factors in that grant that we have to use for? So,
I don't believe, when I last talked to Peggy, they had not gotten a full evaluation of what's in the grant and what's required. But the Buy America was pretty clear at the time. I spoke to her a couple of,
So
a week or 10 days ago.
theoretically target that money toward a certain portion of the building.
Pardon?
You would target that grant toward a specific portion of this project. Because you don't want to get caught in the middle of just having this 6 million, whatever, which is it, just in the middle, and all of our documents are tied to Buy America components, right?
This is the 3.6 from the federal government, I would assume.
Right, Tom, you know what I'm getting at?
I believe
You wouldn't want.
I know what you're getting at. We've had to do this before for other publicly funded projects when it was the Buy America requirement.
But only this portion is Buy America.
Sure, but it's
No, I
difficult
understand.
to
I-
break the project into that. So what we would normally do is we would put the project out to bid with the Buy American requirements for the whole project. And then there will be some exceptions. There might be products that just can't be procured here in the US.
Or assembly here in components.
And there's a process for which usually the contractors can submit to make exceptions.
Where and vendors will sign a piece of paper saying it's Buy American compliant.
Right.
The other question I had really quick, sorry. So this grant, is this part of the Build America program, do you know? Because there is a new BABA, Build America, Buy America component that's different from the original Buy America, so just I guess you gotta find out if that grant is part of this infrastructure bill that the Biden, whatever the name, the Biden infrastructure bill, or whatever it's called, because there is a different
Build
component.
Back Better.
Well, it's Build America Buy, so it's BABA, it's called,
Okay.
instead of just a Buy America, so I guess check that if you could, there's different rules.
We'll have to. And Al, if you've been paying attention, I mean, that's the communication has to be with the people who wrote the grant, which is it's a federal grant. So we're going to have to be sure we have all the information from them going forward. And it sounds like we're gonna need it pretty soon. As I said, the last time I talked to Peggy, at least she was not, she did not have as much information as she needed to pass it on to the building committee.
That's correct, Joe. The finance department, I think, was awaiting the actual regulations as to what Buy America meant under this particular pot of money. So we're actively pursuing the answer to that. And of course, as soon as we have it, that'll be shared with this committee.
Was the was the school, did that have a federal grant attached to it?
Joe, I believe it was a different pot of money, and I think this was a very different pot of money.
Okay, thanks, Al.
Depends on which department in the federal government you get the grants from, depending.
You mean things from the federal government to be confusing? How?
How? Yeah.
Really?
So
Never would have guessed it.
there's, yeah. I mean, you'd be surprised at where you get the grant, like the department under which you get the grants are like, oh, okay, sure.
I guess we could split it up into two different, like,
Bid packages or
two
projects.
different packages and number them differently.
It's, yeah, I think Tom would have to look at the language and just determine, because my concern would be if you split it up, you're limiting the opportunities for the GCs to meet the requirements across the board, just like CHRO requirements, certain subcontractors do and don't have those requirements. And I think it's really to give the GC the best opportunity to meet the requirement across the board, right?
Yeah, I'm not too concerned about it in this project. I think most of the materials and things that are in the project can be sourced here in the USA. I think we just,
It's just
making good intentions, we apply it to the whole project. And you bid it as one full project. But I know what you're saying. Generally, when we do public bid projects, a lot of times funding comes from many different sources. And we require the contractors to take either the most or multiple wage rates. You require the contractor to take the most restrictive in each category. It does have a cost impact on the project, but that is what it is.
It's the little things
So-
that,
so,
it's the little things that get you.
So John, can you take this back to Colliers and Al, if you could keep us updated on, is this the finance committee? Is that the Board of Finance or is that somebody else as a finance?
It's actually our paid staff people. My understanding is the town will have to demonstrate compliance with whatever the requirements are of the grant. I'm not quite sure I understand whether the contractors have to demonstrate compliance, but certainly town officials want to make sure that we understand as town officials what the requirements are in accepting this grant. So I appreciate the fact that while the contractors may be familiar with some of these terms and conditions, it's ultimately up to the town to demonstrate to the federal government that we complied with the requirements of the grant. I'm sorry, was that a confusing answer, Joe?
It's no more confusing than any government answer.
So yes,
I mean,
finance department.
It's as simple as when the submittal comes from the sub or whoever's providing it, they get a letter from the vendor saying it's Buy America compliant, goes with it, and that's your backup.
Okay, so let's move on.
It's
We're
not-
doing
It's not that
Okay,
difficult.
John, you have anything else under new business? Because we're getting down to the end of our meeting.
No, I think that covers the schedule at this point in time, and, continue to update it as meetings and or items come along.
Okay, thank you. And that closes out the business portion of our meeting.
Public comment?
Public comment. Of course, anybody here would like to make a comment?
No, I'm Art Simons. I'm just here because I'm on the Youth Family Services Board and I'm not in official capacity with them, just as a citizen interested in keeping up with what's going on with the impact of the project on Youth and Family Services Department.
Okay, thank you. And Jeannie, anybody with their hand up?
Nope.
Okay, need any other comments from the committee or anything else? No, hearing none, do I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
in favor?
I-
Any discussion, I guess? Generally, though, we go right to voting for. Thank you, everyone.
Quick one.
Quick one.